We've been talking, and I think a lot of this has to do with Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts obviously not doing well in the box office. I saw an article just put out on Forbes where they're talking about how it's the second lowest grossing Marvel movie ever, and that only puts it ahead of the Marvels, which, was such a disaster, of course. But still, the latest entry into this massive catalog, a movie that Bob Iger was hanging his hat on, Kevin Feige hanging his hat on, for it to be doing as poorly as it is, is pretty shocking, right? And we've been having a conversation about what does that mean? What should Marvel do? Well, it would appear that conversation is also going down within the studio, within Disney itself. Okay, so this is kind of interesting here. Kevin Feige and Bob Iger have disagreed over how to introduce the X-Men into the MCU with the upcoming reboot. The TLDR is that Kevin Feige wants a powerful, dramatic movie that really showed us what the X-Men were all about. But Bob Iger requests to focus on a great event film to get a wider audience attention. So let's get in here and let's look at this actual article. Who's saying what? And then I'll give you my thoughts here, okay? Now, this also, I must say, unfortunately, spoiler warning, the article does mention something that's potentially happening right now on the set of Doomsday, and that's that Gambit's probably there. Gambit's probably on set right now, Channing Tatum, and that's kind of interesting. Okay, anyway, let's get into this. So this comes from the main middle man, who has some pretty wild claims about the studio's X-Men reboot. With recent MCU movies underperforming at the box office, it seems Disney CEO Bob Iger is looking for an all-out blockbuster, not a smaller-scale adventure heavy on the sort of political themes the X-Men franchise is known for. Here's what they have to say about how the Jake Schreier-helmed project is shaping up. Kevin Feige wanted a more grounded X-Men story with a plot that really focused on social issues and disagreements about what it means to be a mutant. He wanted a powerful, dramatic movie that really showed what the X-Men were all about, with the Brotherhood of Mutants as the bad guy. Now, that's kind of interesting because I had heard that the Brotherhood and Magneto were actually not going to be a part of the movie. So maybe when he says X-Men story, he's talking more about just the overall story. I thought it was going to be Apocalypse and/or Mr. Sinister as the villain. Anyway, let's move on. But that's not what Iger and Disney want. Aware of the poor performance of more restrained films, especially the disappointing box office like Brave New World and Thunderbolts, the script has been requested to focus on a great event film to get a wider audience's attention. So expect the MCU's first X-Men movie to be huge on events and focus on the box office with more action and fan service. Ideological issues will carry on, but they will be less important than dealing with something bigger. Okay, so that is kind of an interesting dynamic there. And again, it does speak to exactly what we've been talking about with regards to Thunderbolts, Marvel, what is the deal? What should they be doing? I will say that I understand both sides of this. And, I had the opportunity. It's kind of interesting how life happens. Life is somewhat serendipitous. Before Thunderbolts came out, we did a deep dive on Kevin Feige himself. And we took that opportunity to watch a massive interview with Feige from way before all of this stuff went wrong. This was actually before any Disney Plus show came out. It was after the Infinity Saga and before they started the Disney Plus stuff. And this was at, it was in New York. It might have even been the New Yorker Filmmaker Academy or something like that. It was this big sprawling interview where Feige talked all about the process, Marvel, etc. And he really made it a point within that interview to talk about how they didn't have marquee characters, because even Thor, Captain America, Iron Man were not marquee characters. The marquee characters were the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man. Those characters were all sold off in the 90s. When Marvel Studios started, they had to start with lesser-known characters, less marquee characters, right? So after some business, they acquired about 10 names back, and from within those 10 names, they select Iron Man as the first one, Hulk as the next one, etc. So Kevin has always believed that he didn't need the marquee characters and that the quality of the story, the quality of the film, and the interpretation of the character was ultimately much more important. And that clearly worked for a long time, okay? But it has diminishing returns now. And you could argue that Marvel themselves actually screwing up that whole quality arrangement for Phase 4 and 5 has turned off a certain portion of the audience. The audience doesn't necessarily trust Marvel anymore to deliver that quality. I also think this entire discussion of quality is kind of weird and subjective, right? Where, from my perspective and many of your perspectives, Thunderbolts was awesome, right? So let's just, if you love Thunderbolts, as an example here, if you love Thunderbolts, and I'm talking you fucking love it, throw one into the chat. Okay? If you don't do it. But if you love that movie, you think it's incredible, throw a one into the chat. The reason I'm asking this is because I love Thunderbolts. I think it is amazing. I wish the quality of Marvel was always to that bar, to that standard, okay? And that's not, you know, there's a lot of ones in chat, right? We like this movie. Here's the problem, guys. It's the second lowest grossing movie in the entire catalog. So it is just so obviously the case that the quality alone is not the answer. If it were, we would see more dramatic things happening in the week 2, week 3 fall off. People frankly don't care. There is no shortage of people that know that this movie is really good, that know that these characters are going to be in the next Avengers movie, and yet they're still holding out. Now, I think part of that could be they're holding out for streaming. You know, that situation has changed. You know, movies are expensive, the economy's rough, and you're about to see this stuff on digital soon anyway. That's obviously a part of the calculus too. But if the goal is big box office, then I think Bob Iger is right. Like, I think Bob Iger is absolutely right. And I also think that because I love Kevin Feige, right? And I think Kevin's a great producer, but he's clearly not infallible and he's clearly not perfect. And I think one of the things that Feige might be underestimating is how badly they do need to swing for the fences in terms of spectacle to right this ship. Okay? So obviously you want the movies to be good. And I think getting Jake Schreier on X-Men is a nice cosign of quality. You know, it's a cosign that, like, we know this guy made great stuff, even though it didn't light the box office on fire. This dude's good, so we're bringing him over. That's like a sign of quality. But I do agree that they need to be spectacle, man. Because frankly, like, look, you just saw all those ones that poured into chat. We love the Thunderbolts. But you know what else we love? We love winning. Okay? We love it when our thing, Marvel, is winning and succeeding and big. Deadpool and Wolverine was so fun because it was everybody and everybody was excited. It felt like a big party again. Spider-Man No Way Home was so fun because it felt like a big party. Everybody was a part of it. And frankly, too, we like to show off how nerdy we are. We like to show off how much shit we know about all this stuff, but we can't show off to the other nerds. We can only show off to the normies. We need the goddamn aunts, uncles, grandpas, and normies to get into the theater. That's how we have the most fun. That's when it feels like a celebration. That's what Marvel needs. So Bob Iger is right, dude. And frankly, if Kevin, and the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. I don't think Kevin is so deaf that he doesn't understand some of the stuff we're saying. And I think an X-Men on the title instantly creates more of a draw than Thunderbolts. I think that's fair to say, right? But they need the sauce, man. They need the juice. They need spectacle. And I don't think they should make a small, dramatic Mutants or X-Men film. Like, I just really don't think that's the move right now. I think if that's the direction they want to go in, because you could make the argument that, like, okay, what if they made it dramatic, a bunch of young actors, you know, it's relatively cheap, and it's small, like Thunderbolts. And then you're looking at, like, 300, 400 million, and you're like, but we didn't lose money. Like, I don't think that's the direction they should go. I think they should amp it. I think they should make it big scale. And then obviously the social issues play a part of it. The truth is, making 4-quadrant mass appeal IP franchise content is a skill. It's a skill. The reason Kevin Feige is considered the greatest producer of all time is because he had that skill like nobody else. If those movies don't make the $23 billion in 10 years, he's not Kevin Feige. If alone quality wasn't enough to get them to 23 billion in 10 years, why would it be enough now after fatiguing your own audience to revitalize your brand, right? It just doesn't track. Doesn't make sense. So I think you definitely need spectacle. And so, you know, we don't know how true all of this is, but I will say that we have heard Bob Iger over the past couple of years publicly put some pressure on Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige. On top of that, two of Kevin's like really high-level executives are gone. So there is some smoke here. There is some reason to believe that Iger has actually put the pressure on Kevin in a serious way. Do you recall at one of the investor calls, Bob Iger said, you know, I don't want to speak too much on what's coming next, but let me just say that Marvel is going to begin focusing on their stronger franchises. He said that publicly to investors. Again, another way to kind of put pressure on Kevin. So hopefully they're on the same page. If not, sorry, Kevin, Bob's right, and you need to listen. Because I want good X-Men. I also want popular X-Men. I think given the state of the world, maybe popular is more important. Sucks to say, but, you know, you had a chance. This is the way I view it, okay? Maybe this is a fucked up way to look at it, but this is the way I view it. Thunderbolts was your chance, man. If you had proven through Thunderbolts that just quality was enough, if this movie had succeeded, if this movie had had a crazy trajectory, then, dude, I would agree with Kevin right now. So this was the chance to prove that, and they have not proved it. If anything, they've actually proven the opposite. Thanks for watching, and if you like this clip, smash a like on the actual video and subscribe to this channel. That way more of these clips get into your feed. I've also linked the full episode below if you want to check out the entire thing, including the Q&A we do with fans. You can also watch this show live. We do it live Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can also find all of my content, including the videos I put on my main YouTube channel, on the podcast feed.